Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's reading we're looking at what breakthrough or breakthroughs are coming up next in your life. And if you're watching it close to when it was recorded and published, then it's sort of in the wake of the lunar eclipse in Scorpio in May 2022. But you don't have to be watching it then. This is a timeless reading. But if you are, some of the sort of energy around this may be picking up whatever you processed using that sort of breakthrough and almost crash through or crash type energy that lunar eclipses can sometimes have. That's not really the reason that I decided to do this reading now. The reason that I did is that I just got a new oracle from an Australian spirit seeker and artist. A way to distill what some of the big breakthroughs might be for you coming through. And I just wanted to celebrate this deck. I love to support all deck creators because they make my life interesting and are really helpful in terms of doing the readings. But I also just love creative people. And it's fantastic to be able to support a fellow Australian as well. So, as I say, if you're intrigued by this oracle, then you can certainly look to get your own copy using the link in the description box below. I have no particular affiliation here. There is no incentive for me to do it other than genuinely really loving the oracle. So, as I say, if you do too, you can look to get your own copy. But even if you don't want to do that, I think it will be a beautiful oracle to start to give us a sense of what are the breakthrough areas for you. And we'll accompany that with some other oracle cards to start the reading. Then we'll use tarot to look in what you do know about this now, what you perhaps don't know or is coming up, and then what Spirit's advice is. And then we're going to look at what guides and supports there could be for you as you go through the breakthrough, and what you could manifest, what the astrology and other sort of energies like that also can do to support you. So that's basically the reading that we're looking at. The important thing, of course, is to go to the right reading or readings, and you're more than welcome to go to more than one if you want. So I'm just putting down the numbers for those that like the numbers as part of the process of choosing. So, as I say, I've actually chosen because I felt like the energies of the pictures on the cards, as much as anything, called to me for the energies of this reading, for cards from the Aha Oracle, and there are another couple for each of these in each of the readings. So the first one looked to me like a divine scribe, a divine narrator of life in the universe. So for pile 1. For pile 2, I had the sort of sense of freedom and beauty and peace with the dove in the universe. For pile 3, the concept of dominoes falling seemed to fit to me very much with the sense of a breakthrough, where things really start to move and speed up when we've actually had a breakthrough. And pile 4, I had the sense of sort of something downloaded from the mystical realms and having that aha moment about how everything comes together. So if any of those energies or the imagery really calls to you, that may help you choose, but that doesn't have to be how. If you go by the numbers, if you just meditate and then zone in, whatever works for you. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps as always are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So I just want to say, because of course these cards are intuitively chosen, I don't know what they are when I'm doing that. I just sort of shuffle and deal them out for each reading. But sometimes I think that Spirit has a sense of humour. And the reason I say that is that this card made me think of the scribe of the universe, and to some degree Metatron as well as a result of that. Because Metatron, the archangel at Keter in the Kabbalah, is called the scribe of the universe. And then one of the Dreams of Gaia cards that came intuitively in being shuffled is actually the card called the scribe. So I mean, I think it literally is part of what this reading is about, and it makes a lot of sense with the other cards. But I just want to say sometimes I think Spirit does have a sense of humour and wants to kind of like play with words. I think that's often what synchronicities are. It's a kind of, not a joke, it's always serious, but there is almost a kind of a lightness of touch. So I get there is a lightness of touch for you, even though this is actually a very significant breakthrough. There are a number of ways of reading this. One of them is about creativity on its most pure sense around physical creativity. With Sheila Nig, which is the sort of Irish goddess of gateways, she's a bit irreverent, and I feel like there's a kind of irreverence. I think your spirit guides have a sense of humour. People who come to pile 1, I think I get that sort of sense of, we're going to go through this, but we're going to have a bit of fun with it. And she is a bit irreverent. But she is also about gateways and passageways, which can be things like, having a child, for instance. I think for some, there may be something like this. There may be a breakthrough around building a family, because there's a sense of creation and the seed of life over here with the flower of life, and creations that take time, and letting go, maybe with Hades over here with the sort of God energy around it, of letting go of that which didn't work to bring in what will work. So I think for some there is a very distinct and definite sort of sense here. If you are looking, one of your breakthroughs is around having children or starting a family, I think there's a very, very good indication of that. That's quite specific, but it could be there. For others, this is about creating, it's either a creative project that you are going to do that you'll have a breakthrough with, or it's you writing your own story and having a breakthrough, a new cycle starting in your life. Could connect to being recognized finally for something creative, having that breakthrough aha moment around this is what I'm going to be known for creatively and so forth. Could also be, I always feel with the 6 of fire in the dreams of Gaia, that there's a sense of collaboration, so finding a good partner creatively or more generally in life. But the interesting energy, if I go up to the aha cards here, this card is all about creativity. So that's why it sort of fits with the divine scribe. It's writing your own story. And with the scribe energy here, one of the things it talks about is narrating your own life and keeping a journal or keeping a blog or a vlog or something like that. So anyone who wants to say something in social influencing, very, very strong energy for you telling a story that is compelling. But beyond that, there is being able to sort of write your story, being able to understand what that is. And with the 9 of air here, which in Dreams of Gaia is not the difficult card that it is, say, in Rider-Waite-Smith, a sense of understanding all the possibilities. And the thing about the scribe energy here is it's non-judgmental. So we have this sense here that you were drawn to about being able to write your own story. So if you felt a little bit constrained by other people's opinions, other people's sort of views about things, the work situation you're in, whatever it is, there is a chance now to rewrite that and to seed the new in, to end the cycles that were not working for you, to find the right collaborators. But it's done in a very fair and non-judgmental way. There is something in this energy where you maybe have dealt with judgment, because this card, 66, in the Aha Oracle, with the 2 different eggs, it's sort of like it's looking at the weighing and the judgment that is around what appears to be the good egg and what appears to be the not so good egg. And yet, as the card has been done here, there is a sense that sometimes what is seen as not so good may have its own value and may have its own lightness, that sometimes being good, being right, fitting in with what other people want, etc., can weigh you down. So there's a sense here of not necessarily saying, oh, I'm going to be the bad egg, but of saying, I'm going to be me. I'm going to write my own rules. I'm going to write my own life. I'm going to create what I want to create. I understand that there are possibilities, infinite possibilities, and it doesn't have to look exactly like everybody else's creation. It can be a little bit quirky. It can be a little bit new. And in doing that with the flower of life, you seed something which becomes its own thing. I feel that for many of the people who come here, you'll have a breakthrough creatively or in your career, or as I say, potentially, literally, physically. That will be for some, but for many of you, and some of it might be physically also birthing a new you, like how you want to be in the world. It will take time with the flower of life. It's like seed of life to fully blossom. But this sort of concept of you're in the driver's seat and you get to decide, the aha moment I think we're seeing here is that the gateway threshold was always there for you. Whatever this was that you felt was blocking you, it was always there, but you had to make the decision that you were going to be you and a bit different and create and bring forth what is right from you and let go of, I think, the idea that you had to fit in with everybody else. So I think it's a very powerful sort of aha moment, something in your life, whether it's around your career, creativity, as I say, sort of physically, it could be taking on a new exercise program, but the one that fits you to create the you that you want. It could be even things like, gender identity. It could be anything where you felt, oh, I'm going to be judged. You're no longer letting that happen. Something has occurred where you will no longer let that judgment hold you back. So I think it's a really glorious energy. And I think your spirit team are tickled pink. That's why I think they're not joking, as I say. They're just kind of having a little bit of fun. And I think they want you to have a little bit of fun. I feel like everything's been a bit heavy, but this aha moment is breaking you through to understand how much you can be the narrator of your own life. So I think it's a really lovely energy. So let's have a look with tarot. Let's ask what it is that you know about this right now. And then we're going to ask what you maybe don't know or what's coming up, and then Spirit's advice. So firstly, what does pile one know about this aha moment where they start to write their own narrative? Okay, so what you know that you have been holding yourself back a bit with the Eight of Wands reversed. You know that, and I'm using this particular tarot in particular because it uses chakra associations as well too, because I think that can be helpful in working out where breakthrough energies are. That lack of allowing yourself to be free in who you are was affecting you at the root chakra level. So I think that you've realized this is why we've got the flower of life. It's really core to you. Whatever this is really core to who you are. So you know that you need to liberate that. You know that you've been kind of trying to do the right thing all the time, living in the crown chakra, trying almost to be ascetic. Some of you may have felt, for instance, that you have a spiritual calling and that you should therefore be mystical and disconnected from the material world. But I think there's a very material feeling to this. I think you've actually had an aha moment that, you know what, that's not right. You could actually do something material with it, and that you are ready with the Seven of Wands to go up against the competition. If you sort of held yourself back and felt you always had to negotiate your place in competition, you sort of realize how much that's holding you back. And you've really started to look within with the Page of Cups about what matters to you on an emotional level, what's touching your heart, because that's where all this comes from. That's where this sort of drive to let this energy that feels heavier and felt like it was holding you back and making you feel like life is a game that is really hard to play and you have to be careful of everybody who's around you because there's always competition, moving into actually that was just blocking my manifestation in terms of the Four of Pentacles reversed. I have to get back to the heart and design it for myself. I think you've had an aha moment that you have lived too much in what the competition is and in comparison to others and in fitting into what somebody would call quote unquote spiritual or quote unquote creative or quote unquote talented. And you're now saying, actually, if I use some of this sort of courage and I use some of this sort of negotiation ability to create my own emotional resonance, then that unblocks this. So I think you do know. I think most of you who've come here know that you've got to take control of the steering wheel. So let's see what you don't know or don't see, what could be coming up or that you're not seeing at the moment that would be helpful for you to know so that you steer yourself in the most beneficial direction. Okay, one of the things that this is saying for some, this is a bit specific, but what it's saying for some is that some of the reason for some of you that you may not have taken on your own narration of your life is that you might have put a little bit too much store by relationships, by fitting into somebody's idea of what it was to be attractive or to be lovable or something like that. There's a feeling here of eroding some of your sort of manifest truth because you're trying to avoid sort of problems around relationships, and probably primarily love relationships with the Two of Cups. Doesn't have to be, but primarily that some of this was that you didn't want to stir things up, you didn't want to disturb the peace, and you maybe were looking for the approval of people who you felt were more materially manifest. So if you were a creative person, for instance, and you wrote a book, then you wanted people who were well established in the industry to recognize you. And as a result, you've ended up sort of limiting your sense of who you are and kind of always trying to fit into what others do or whatever. So that there is a sense here that for the peace or to fit in, you may have actually limited some of what you could build that was more uniquely you. But what Spirit is saying that you don't know is that there are relationships, friendships and others that are good and would celebrate with you and will when you start to do this, and that you will find the right sort of collaborators. It's just you've been looking in the wrong places or something by the looks of things. And whether that, as I say, is in a romantic relationship, if this was around difficulty in creating children and so forth, it just might have been that the worry around it and some of the stress of that was actually diminishing the sort of health level. So understanding that and thinking about that and going back to nourishing you is the thing that's the breakthrough that brings the celebration of the Three of Cups and so forth. But I think for most it's more that you've just been in a very competitive sort of environment, or an environment where comparison is really a big part of it and fitting in is a big part of it. This is why we got the good egg and the bad egg. But that is what has limited you, and more than you possibly think, because you don't want to stir up people to not like you. But Spirit is saying that's not going to happen. If there are people who don't deal with who you are, that's their problem. They're probably jealous. This is really about finding the people who can support you. And once you start to narrate your life, that's part of what you can bring in. That's part of what you can almost write into the universe. The intention that you find the people who like the different, the diverse, the new, the creative, rather than those that want everything to be just so. And, some of this may even come with the King of Pentacles reversed from, parental, pressures and so forth as well. So let's pull 3 cards for just high-level advice from Spirit about how to I think, deal with that energy mostly, so that you do have the courage to not worry about stirring the pot with people, and to feel that you do know that you have the ability to negotiate your way through conflict, because the conflict's pretty minor when it's the Five of Wands, and with Five of Wands reversed, you'll come out of it a lot quicker than you expect. But let's just see what Spirit wants to say in terms of some advice for you. Okay, it's saying the same thing. I think it's really saying for most of you here, the real thing you have to think about for this aha moment is to what degree you submerge your own narrative, your own life, your own creativity for the sake of harmony, love, potentially, and that keeps you in a state of not feeling emotionally happy, that you can actually come out of it when you understand you need to make the decisions around that, and you can bring the right energy in when you do it. It's like you have just felt that the way to see that you are good or creative or worthy or lovable is through the approval of these people who are maybe not the right people for you. And you've given them too much power, basically. And that sort of caught you. So I think Spirit just wants you to go, no, take up the pen, scribe your own life. You are a beautiful person. You have enormous potential to bring things through. You just need to break away from those influences around you that tell you that the only way that you can be worthy is if you look like X and you do Y. But there's something around love. There's something around looking for love. It's almost as though you looked for love to validate you, and that then gave all the power to the person who you loved, as opposed to looking to love to just be about love, and that it doesn't need to validate. There's some energy around that for you. And again, if this is around sort of creativity or whatever, it's just, again, like maybe not looking after your own sort of emotional needs enough to be so focused on this is the way it has to be done and this is how is the very thing that's kind of blocking the energy. So just, having faith, like sitting back and having faith that you can narrate. I mean, I think that your Spirit team very, very clear on this right from the beginning, to have you come to this card and then have the scribe. They're saying you really do have the ability to manifest the life that you want. I don't say that lightly, because I think there's a lot that goes into manifestation, but you really do have that kind of connection and ability to do it. That's why it's important for you to write the story, not to do it in response to others, even if it's somebody that you love. Okay, so let's have a look at some supports for you. So I wanted to draw on 2 decks for that. One is around divine animals, and the other is a deck that has sort of beautiful sort of butterfly dragons. And I just felt like they were good supports for any kind of aha moment for you in terms of totems and energy. So we're just going to look at that. Then we're going to look at the cards that were also under the card that brought you here, that are around kind of pathways and light on your pathway as well. So firstly, let's have a look at some divine animal and sort of magical animal supports for you, pile 1. So we have gorilla, peace. Yeah, having peace within yourself. Gorilla should be, if you are feeling like you're going to be in a battle with those that you love around this, gorilla will help you just be at peace with that. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as much of a battle as you think, actually. I think that's what you're not saying, and Spirit wants you to know, that you just need to just switch the dial just a little bit. And another one, seahorse, equality. Yeah, because there's something out of whack here. This is, with 2 2s reversed, and then we get the seahorse to bring in equality sort of energy for you. There is a power imbalance. This is part of your aha moment, is to know that there's a power imbalance around you creating your own life. And if you take that back and you're at peace with yourself doing that, it actually sorts out a lot easier than you expect it to. Okay, let's get a couple of dragon butterflies to also give you some energy around this. Beginnings. I'm going to put that over here with the flower of life and with Hades sort of closing out the past. So this is about new beginnings for you. This is about taking on and the egg. The egg is near a beginning. The flower of life is near a beginning. The gateway to the new world. I think your spirit team is saying you're going to succeed with this big time. And abundance, yeah, you're going to exceed with it big time. And if this is about anything, physical sort of health, reproduction, creativity, who you are in your career, even bringing in the right love, all of this is happening once you sort of take this step towards writing your own narrative. Like, I literally think you're someone who should sit down and write what it is that you want. I think there's something about that. Write that down. Make it a kind of statement to the universe. It seems to, I think for you, that's going to bring that energy in. Let's look at what else might be shining the light on your pathway for you. So firstly, a couple of cards from the Golden Path. Self-worth. Yeah, there it is. That's what you need to really focus on. You have so much skill, so much ability. Your spirit team, as I say, just want to kind of play and have fun with you because you're so skilled and so able to do this and so ready. So just focus on your self-worth, not on what other people might sort of say or in comparison to others, because you're going to be different. So if you are trying to compare yourself to others, say in a career or in a creative approach or whatever it is, you're different. It's like it's trying to compare an apple and an orange. I mean, beyond the fact that they're both fruit, there's really not a great deal of a comparison. So that's something. Understand what is different about you because it's part of your power. And sea of love, yeah, and then that's a double message actually. I think it's saying that once you do that, you bring in the right love if you've been finding it hard to do that. And if you are looking to start a family, to bring in a loving family. I think it's also, the sea is a vast, amazing place, but it is also one where we can get lost. So I think it is, if you have self-worth, you can navigate the sea of love, but you need that. And then lastly, the lantern path, circles. Clarity begins in the eye of the storm. So if you have been worried about pushing back, I don't think the eye of the storm, I think the eye of the storm actually is the peaceful point. You actually reach the peaceful point very quickly, and I think gorilla energy with peace will help you there. But the storm is not to be worried about. It will pass, and I think a lot quicker than you expect. And it'll bring in new beginnings and abundance for you. But you've just got to be prepared to do that. So, okay, if you follow this guidance and this breakthrough energy, let's see what kind of things you could manifest. Good fortune. Well, that's pretty good. Goes with abundance, I think. And healing. There you go. And with the sea of love. I mean, I feel about this. If you are in a relationship where you have, without meaning to, given over the power of approval to the other party, most people in that situation with this reading, just by changing and shifting the dial and writing what you want and being a bit clearer about it, I think you'll find that relationship actually heals and actually rebalances. But even if you did move on, even if the Hades energy was around ending that, you're going to bring in something better. You are going to heal something in maybe not feeling, in that feeling of difference that you had. You're going to start to understand that's actually what your good fortune is. Okay. So to finish off, we're going to get some astrology energy for you around your breakthrough, and then I'm going to use the crystal chakra deck to connect back into the chakra energy of the tarot that we used to get you some affirmations on your breakthrough. So what's the sort of astrological energy and numerological energy to some degree, if those cards come up from this deck, around the breakthrough for pile 1? Fixed. Last quarter. Void, of course. Virgo. Okay. So I think this is telling you about the energy that you need to shift through. Fixed signs are, by virtue of the naming of it, rather fixed in their views. I think this is saying, and with last quarter, that is something ending, a cycle going out. So to me, this is saying that the time of being so fixed and following that which is fixed is ending. This is the gateway, this is the Hades ending. So astrologically, you are being supported in letting go of any beliefs or structures or limitations that you had felt held back by. And you may at first feel a little bit lost, because void, of course, moon is sort of feeling a bit lost and so forth. Where is the sort of pathway and so forth? But I think what Spirit is saying is that when you first step into this, you're actually not on a pathway. You don't have to worry about navigating. You're in the eye of the storm. You let that pass, and then you start to construct what you really want. Virgo is the sign of bringing sort of earthly manifestation to the structure and the foundations that you want in your life, and the planning and the strategy. So using that 7 of Wands and 7 of Swords energy we saw earlier, really strategically and tactically. So it's saying that while you are in the eye of the storm and you have time to watch what is going on and observe it, then, and you can be at peace in doing that, you can be starting to plan. And the key to your plan, I think, is the heart chakra, because we saw that in terms of, like, it both heals anything around love relationships, but it also allows you to follow what you love. So I think there's a very clear message here that you are, and it's also almost the gestation feeling of the flower of life, and even to some degree, you know, before an egg sort of cracks and a baby chicken comes out or whatever, there is that sense of waiting, narrating, writing the story, getting ready to act when it's right to act, and not to be too concerned about that, because you're heading in the right direction and you're heading towards the good fortune and the abundance and the new beginnings. Okay, so to finish off pile 1, I just want to pull a couple of crystal chakra cards just to give you some affirmations for your breakthrough, because this is a profound breakthrough. This is a breakthrough for you being or creating yourself, or your own creative vision, or your own sort of narrative of your life. And we have the crown chakra, so a lot will come to you spiritually. And the throat chakra, which will eventually mean that you speak. But even that, to me, I feel like the crown chakra is this sort of void, of course, last quarter, be in the eye of the storm. This is allowing the download to come through for you to really understand who you are. And then once you've done the planning, you can speak your truth. For the crown chakra here, we have lepidolite, and that's about dissipation and reorganization. And so the crown chakra energy is bringing this sort of affirmation to you. I reorganize parts of my life often. So you can rewrite your chapters whenever you want, but it's your choice. And I demand that all negatives dissipate. That's right. Anything that was negative, anything that didn't fit in with what you wanted to do in your life, you can start to sort of write something different. This is not to say you will never have another challenge, you will never have another argument or any of those things. It's more that you will start to be the captain of that ship, and therefore you can make it as positive as possible. And then you use the throat chakra with celestite, which is about divinity and wisdom. I am wise beyond my years. So yes, this is part of what's different about you. This is why you are meant to be different. And I see divinity in all things. Yes, you, when looking at that egg, do not see a problem. Other people might see a problem, whether that egg is you or whether it's someone else. You recognize that there are no mistakes. On that level. In terms of what is created, it is meant to be created, and it is beautiful in itself. So you are beautiful in yourself. You are meant to be created, and you are meant to create who you are as well too. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it, particularly if there's any other kind of sense of humor around the scribe energy there. And beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So we have the aha card that brought you here, plus another couple to give a bit more of a sense of what this aha moment is about, this breakthrough moment is about. We have some Dreams of Gaia cards to also give us some energy, and a God and Goddess type card to give a sense also of the sort of mythos underneath this breakthrough for you. This is interesting. I think that most people who've come here, this is either around a breakthrough with a relationship, very possibly one in family or very, very close. It's like a love relationship or, as I say, family. Or it could be in a workplace, but it is something about you having understood where you have been not treated fairly, I would say, and where there has been competition that was suppressive to you, because the energy around this, and then I'll go to the Dreams of Gaia, is interesting. There is a sense, this card talks about forgiveness, peace and forgiveness, and so I do think there is a breakthrough for you that involves being able to forgive somebody or some people for something, having a sort of sense of understanding and acceptance in whatever has happened, so that you can eventually come home to yourself or settle something in home, because this card is an energy around homecoming, being true to yourself, being at home with yourself, all of those sorts of energies. And the pathway is forgiveness and humility. I think that many of you have been in environments or in a relationship where there maybe has been quite a bit of ego battling, because the Eight of Swords in the Dreams of Gaia card, or Eight of Air, talks about understanding the negative effects of ego. So it's as though you may have been dealing with that. You might have been clashing with someone, a loved one, someone in the family, someone in the workplace, around ego, around who was the smartest, who was the boss, all of that kind of thing. Or you may have been dealing with someone who just wanted that and had to be that regardless of whatever impact it might have. And it's like you've had the aha that if that's the case, if it's the other person, they're not necessarily going to be able to change, because it comes from a deep insecurity. And if it was you, you've had the aha moment to go, because I think if it's you, you were dealing with someone like you in that case, you've had the humility and the awareness to know that's taking you away from who you are at home and who you really are. And just forgiving that energy and letting that go releases the sort of battle. And there may be a bit of a sacrifice associated with that. It could be that coming home to yourself requires you to leave a relationship or leave a workplace. It could be also that the sacrifice is to accept that the other is not where you are at this point, and that you can move forward spiritually. They will need to go their own pathway. There's definitely something very material around it, because we have two earth cards here. The Ace of Earth, or the Ace of Pentacles, tells me that part of this aha moment gives you a new option materially. So it could be a new place to live, a new job, a new creative project, a new health regime. Any of those sort of things could come from this journey where you have consolidated and accepted and taken a very, very spiritual view on whatever this conflict was. It brings in new energy, new opportunities, that you can rapidly move to something that is more stable and more at home. It's very interesting that we have the 10 of Earth, which is one of the classic sort of like family, stability, security cards, connected to the aha card around homecoming. But it is about you understanding the corrosive impact of ego. Now, some of you may have had that issue come up and you've had to forgive it, because you are very attractive, very charismatic. With Helen of Troy here, she was reputedly the daughter of gods. She was so beautiful, and she's the face that launched 1,000 ships, all of those sorts of things in the storylines. But certainly this is a card of beauty, of charisma, of drawing people in. So I think that many of you maybe even have had to work out how you sacrifice a bit of that energy to find the stability and to take on the humility. But I think that you've drawn some of this competition energy because of that sort of charisma, beauty, or whatever that you bring to things. But your real beauty is the spiritual beauty. You have a great deal of spiritual beauty, pile 2. You are able to go into that space of forgiveness and humbleness and humility. You are able to do that because you understand that takes you truly to home and to what is worth having a legacy on. So whether, as I say, this is in family, and some of you it may be, And I feel like I do feel if this is another person, I feel there's almost a bit of an impasse here, but that's what you've realised, that you can't change the other person, you can't stop the competition, it's going to happen. And if you were engaging in it, then you were just dissipating your own energy. So I do feel for many of you that this is about sacrificing by moving away from that sort of battle and understanding the other person has their own pathway. And if it, as I say, if you got caught up in it, then you've let go. So there's something about a competition, there's something about ego clashes, and I do think it's triggered by you having something very attractive that the other person doesn't have but wants to own. So there's that sort of energy, but you've understood this. So let's have a look what tarot can tell us. So we're going to start first with what you know already about the situation. Then we're going to look at what you might not know or what might be coming up that could be helpful to know. And then we'll ask for Spirit's advice. I mean, I don't think you need a lot of advice. I think you've already kind of worked out the pathway, but there could be some fallout from this. So let's just see what Spirit wants to say. So firstly, what you know about this breakthrough, this situation. Okay, it's very interesting. We've got the Ten of Pentacles again. So you're very aware of the longer term impact on this, the things where it might be to do with family or status or monetary outcomes. I mean, some of you, this might have been a creative or a work battle or whatever, in which case you've moved beyond it and maybe you potentially even left a workplace to find a longer term one if that's the case. But certainly you know that what you're trying to build towards is something that is a home and is sustainable and so forth, and that you have done a lot towards that, even if you got pulled off course a lot by whatever this competition was. You also know that's coming to an end. With the world, you're closing out on a cycle so that you can then build what you want in the longer term. So you've had a lot of learning from this. You've really understood certain things about yourself and other people. And you've also, interestingly, unlearned some stuff. Like unlearnt maybe what other people tried to tell you or a way to look at the world in some way. With the Eight of Pentacles reversed, because the Eight of Pentacles, the right way up, is always sort of like building skills, learning and so forth. I always feel when it's reversed, it's like it tilts towards you've had to unlearn something. Maybe even if this has been in your family, it may be family patterns that you've had to unlearn and you've really understood them. So an example might be if you went through, you grew up in a family that had narcissistic patterns in it. You may not have realized it when you were in it, but maybe you've had an aha moment, sort of having sort of moved away from it, to see how those patterns operated and to see the sort of ego issues that were behind that. And you've almost had to unlearn what the other party has told you about the situation and about you and about what's right and wrong and about what the world is and all of that kind of thing, so that you can close that out. Forgive it, understand it, but not be ruled by it anymore. So you create something that is healthier and more stable. So it's just an example, but there's something like that, and it could be in a workplace as well, where you've maybe found that you were, to give another example, you're in a workplace where you in fact had a lot of sort of recognition and people really liked you and were drawn to you, but there was someone who maybe had technical skills, quote unquote, higher than yours or something, and really was pushing that was the thing, and you've had to understand what you bring to the table that is different, but that also that you can't necessarily stop this energy of competition. Okay, so let's have a look at what you don't know or what could be coming up that would be useful to know. Okay, so Spirit's saying firstly that whoever this person is, and I do think with most of you there's a person or there's a group of people, whatever it is, that have made you have the aha moment about how really these sort of battles or whatever aren't worth it, that they're almost like white noise, they come from insecurity. This person's judgments are not as powerful as you might think they are. Like, you are more than capable of creating this sort of new world for yourself. This person is not materially very, very stable. And they're certainly not loyal. So if there was a part of you that you felt like, oh, maybe I should forgive and stay around this person and sort of just deal with it, I think Spirit is saying that if you have to be around them, then have some boundaries around them, because they're a bit of a vacuum. They're a bit of a kind of a void that is always going to be trying to pull energy in, because they ultimately don't feel connected with people, and they ultimately don't feel good enough or recognized enough. So, but they do like to use judgment, and they do like to almost give out favors for who they quote unquote like, or whatever that might be. But Spirit is saying you're not really fully aware yet. You're starting to get there, but you're not fully aware of how little power they really have. And that fortune is moving towards you, but you may feel at first when it happens like it's a little bit unstable. So it could be that you've had this aha moment, you're trying to be humble, you're trying to sort of like deal with that issue and really create something, but they may try and disturb this a bit because they don't want to let go of the debate. But the fortune is moving towards you, so don't get disturbed by that. This is just kind of the sort of like aftershocks of them realizing they don't have that control anymore. Okay, so let's ask for 3 cards for Spirit to give you just some advice about dealing with this. I'm also getting that fortune is moving in your way, so if you feel that you have to sacrifice a lot, give it some time till it settles, because you probably won't need to sacrifice anywhere near what you think you might have to. Okay, advice. Okay. Spirit is saying one of the things that you need to have learned from this is that you shouldn't, in being sort of like, as I say, humble and looking for the longer term and the sort of forgiveness, you shouldn't dim your own creative light and your own beauty. Don't do that. That is part of you, and it's not being vain to know that. You may sometimes feel, and it could be a good tactic, when you are around those who are likely to be threatened by whatever your charisma, beauty, skill, creativity, whatever it is, then you might just cover it a little bit, not make it quite so obvious with the 4 of Swords, take the time out or whatever, but there are more people around who will celebrate and be happy with you and enjoy what you bring to the table than people who will be trying to suppress it. But don't feel you have to give all that up. Don't feel that Helen of Troy's beauty has to be sacrificed for you to be truly humble. That's not what humility is. Humility is not kind of a perverse reverse version of ego. It's actually being happy and self-actualized in yourself, and therefore being open to the diversity of others and what else they bring to the table, rather than, as I say, competing with it or feeling like you have to hide your shadow. But certainly Spirit is saying that with some people you might threaten them, so you just dial it up or dial it down to what you think is reasonable, so you don't end up in these sort of petty battles anymore. Okay, so let's see what supports there are for you going through this breakthrough, this aha moment. We're going to use a couple of divine animal totems, and then we're going to use a couple of cards from a deck that has dragons with butterfly wings. I just think it's such a cute, beautiful deck. So what better than to get a couple of animal totems to help you, and then also mythical creatures to help you as well. So let's see what Spirit has for you there. Wolf. Authenticity, yes, being who you are. This is the thing. Wolf is here to make sure that in your journey to homecoming and to building for the future by being forgiving and humble, that you don't lose your authenticity, that you don't feel you have to hide away all the time, that you do that in a calculated, in a good way, because there are the right people for you. Wolf does not want you to lose who you are in the process of dealing with this competition. And Seahorse, that's interesting. It came up for another one, equality. And that's the thing. This is what I'm saying. Humility is not thinking you are lesser than everybody. That's not what humility is. Humility is understanding you have your own stuff, and so does everybody else. That in the terms of the perfection of creation, we are all perfect. We all have things to work on, but we are all equal. And I think that Seahorse will help you do that and bring to you the people that are more equal to you in the sense of where you're at in your journey. Let's see what the dragon butterflies can bring you on this journey. Serenity, that's lovely. So there is, in this energy of forgiveness and humility and coming home, there is serenity. So I think that makes a lot of sense. It's just, I'm getting very strongly to say that is beautiful energy, but don't feel, as I say, that you have to sacrifice too much of yourself for it. That's about balance. And in the process of doing this is the one thing that you may feel a bit imbalanced. So just allow that to process through you. Call on wolf and seahorse here to give you the authentic way and the equal way to go forward as who you are, but not end up in these ego clashes. And we also have dreams. So allowing you to have your dreams, allowing you to have what you want to do. I do think that quite a few people who've come here probably come from families where there has been some sort of issues around who you were and whether you were good enough, and ego issues. So some of your dreams might have been squashed a bit, but I think this is saying that you can resurrect those dreams, definitely. And that's the other thing about Mithras. I mean, we've got sacrifice there, but Mithras is a very similar story to the Christ story in that there is a resurrection concept at the end of it. So I do think this is also saying you come home to yourself and resurrect those dreams, maybe even from childhood. So let's have a look at some support for you on the pathway. 2 cards from the Golden Path and 1 from the Lantern Oracle to see what else can help you with this breakthrough. Inspired Warrior. Well, that's the authentic person. And change. Going through the change that you need to do. Going through this process of understanding and changing it. Seeing it as an inspired warrior. And to me, an inspired warrior is not someone who is just fighting for fighting's sake. You know, and can in fact forgive and go through those sorts of processes. But a warrior always fights for the home, in a sense, the nation, the culture, whatever it might be. So there's something about homecoming connected to that, and about you going through the change of this breakthrough, this aha moment to resurrect your sense of self, but in an understanding of the impact of yourself, if that makes sense. Okay, and lastly, the Lantern Oracle. Spirit self, be who you are as you are. Yes, I think Spirit wants to say this a number of times, that don't take the humility so far that you lose yourself. It's about balance. Okay, so if you do that, let's see what energy you can manifest with this breakthrough. Love. Okay, so if some of this was with somebody that there was a love relationship and it was tricky, then either you resolve that, or I think more likely you bring in new love because you've let go of the energies that are about combat. And you are very attractive, so that is likely to come in. And if it's around your family and love of family and building a family that is loving, that's part of the energy you can bring in. Also, luxury. Well, that's nice. I think this is saying, and remember at the beginning we had 2 Pentacles cards, the Ace and the 10. That definitely suggests that part of this breakthrough is to head towards, and with the 10 of Pentacles again there, the concept of wealth, or certainly a very comfortable life from your skills. But it's don't get sort of waylaid by sort of ego battles. You know, find that balance so that you can be authentic and you can actually create love and luxury in your life. All right, so to finish off, we get some astrology energy. For the astrology energy around this astrology, and sometimes from this deck, numerology energy around the breakthrough that you're having, and then we'll use crystal chakra deck for some affirmations. So, air, Aquarius, 11. Wow, okay. And Scorpio. Okay, all right. So, air to me says there's a philosophical part of this. And this may be the important point, because I think with these sort of energies of forgiveness and humility and sort of homecoming, there's a lot of emotional energy there. But I think it is important for you to also understand intellectually what's going on. That's how you'll understand not to sacrifice too much as you go through this, to learn from it, to make it part of your knowledge base. Aquarius suggests to me this is because you have a bigger picture aim in the world, and that I think is also shown by 11, which is a master number. You didn't just come in with this charisma or ability just to enjoy yourself. You've actually come in with a purpose, and it will serve more than just you. And it is downloaded through the Kabbalah from the crown crown chakra and from Keta down to Malkuth or the kingdom. So there is definitely a sense of you came here with a purpose, a concept. There is something you're meant to do. And with Scorpio, it is very transformative, which also picks up that Mithras energy. So the transformation within, the letting go of the ego and making it more transpersonal and really connecting to your power and who you really are in the world, that is the thing that gives you that depth, that intensity, and brings in what you want in the world. So you're here for a bigger purpose, basically. That's one of the reasons why you're so attractive to people. So don't hide that light too much. Okay, so to finish off, we're just going to pull a couple of crystal chakra cards with affirmations for you, pile 2. We have the root chakra and the heart chakra. Okay, so the root chakra with red carnelian is talking about stabilization and vitality. The affirmations are, I see the vitality in all things and I invite stability into my life. And you are looking for that. This battle has made it feel a bit unstable, but you're looking for that homecoming. You're looking for the 10 of Pentacles twice. So this is about you finding out who you are and having a stability in something that can last. And it's to get you off the pathway of having sort of distracting ego battles with people, because that's their problem. If you go into your heart chakra with chrysoprase, we have meditation and detoxification. I detoxify myself of harmful behaviors, connections, and environments. Yeah, so when you come across that sort of toxicity, with forgiveness and with humility, let it go. Just don't let it crowd out the energy and the purpose that you have in life. And I meditate to become closer to spirit. So you are connected to spirit very strongly with 11 there, but I think sometimes the distraction of this stuff where people are responding to your sort of beauty and your power, your skill, whatever it is, takes you off that course. So it is important to meditate and reconnect. So pile 2, I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome pile 3 to your reading. So along with the card that possibly drew you to this particular reading from the Aha Oracle, we have 2 other cards as well. We also have Goddess and God energy and some Dreams of Gaia cards as well to look at the nature of the breakthrough. And for you, there's a very clear nature to this breakthrough, and it's about healing. It could be healing yourself, it could be healing others, or a combination of both. In fact, I think for most coming here, it is an aha moment, a breakthrough, to know that there is something incredibly beautiful and incredibly universal in your own journey towards self-discovery, self-esteem, the impact of other people's views and your life and on others, and how the stewardship almost and the counseling within yourself and healing within yourself is also going to be of benefit to others, children, people that you have a nurturing role with, people that you have a responsibility for. This is about profound healing within and understanding about what it is to be healed and to understand your own impact and your own journey in life. Now, why I say that, to start with the Aha cards. The card that drew you here, potentially, or certainly the first card here, is a card of dominoes. And it's sort of the real message behind it, excuse me, is that from little things, great things grow. From one small thing, there's a kind of effect, a ripple effect. It's like the butterfly effect in a way. The smallest actions, the smallest course corrections, the smallest decisions, the smallest words spoken, all of those things can have a cumulative effect, and they start to create a procession, a movement towards something. And then we have this card here, which is about pilgrimage, spiritual pilgrimage, the offering that we make to ourselves and to others. And I think very much for many of the people who come here, you have now or will have some form of stewardship or nurturing role with others, whether that's as a parent, whether it's as a friend who is the sort of spiritual support and counselor guide to your friends, whether it's in a leadership role in a workplace, whether it's in a career that is about counselling and so forth, which it could be with this card here. You have that role, and your pilgrimage to understand yourself and what it is with prana here, the pure life force and healing and chi, that kind of energy, understanding that on a very fundamental level, connecting to the healing energy here of the Major Arcana card from the Dreams of Gaia, you have that role, and it's like you understand, like with counseling, that the smallest sort of shifts in a perspective can have a ripple effect that brings much more sort of life force out and starts the pilgrimage of self-discovery for yourself or for others. And I think that part of it is that you had to learn the lesson of self-esteem. With Amaterasu here, this goddess is effectively like the sun. So there is a sun energy for you, but she was sort of hidden away for a while because of the beauty of her radiance. And so there is a sense of coming out and understanding that about yourself step by step to be on your own pilgrimage. So for some of you, the breakthrough might be a healing breakthrough. You could have been going through difficult sort of physical ailments, and you are now you're on the path to healing. You could have been dealing with self-esteem issues and taken counseling. But I think if that's the case, what you learn from that, you actually then pass on to others in some way. There could also be the healing of the inner child. So some of you may be doing that kind of shadow work that can, potentially heal those sort of issues and bring those up to the surface. It's interesting with Maui here. This is a god that's a bit like Prometheus, but just from a different culture. So there is a sense sometimes with this of self-sacrifice, of bringing knowledge that others don't want people to have. So for some of you, there may be a sort of sense here of you have a mission, a message that would be not necessarily accepted in the contemporary world or by those who are in power, but in essence would empower others. And there is a sort of thing of making sure that you don't become a bit like Maui or Prometheus in terms of being punished for doing it. And this may be why we have this domino effect, that it's like if you had a different way of looking at education, self-esteem, stewardship, politics even, any of those things could be the case with this. You won't necessarily go about it by going head on against something because you understand that could in fact be a negative thing for your life to do. But it's showing people, giving people the tools, the way to think, teaching critical thinking, teaching how to research, teaching how to understand healing practices. All of those sort of things are connected to what this breakthrough is. So there is a bit of a hint here that there is something about your aha moment that is a little bit out of step with what the powers that be might want. But it is very, very powerful, very, very healing for you and for others. Okay, so let's have a look what tarot can tell us. So we're going to start firstly with what you know about this breakthrough, then we're going to look at what you don't know or could be coming up that could be helpful to know, and then we'll get Spirit's advice around it. So firstly, what you do know about this breakthrough at this point. Okay, you do know what I was picking up with Maui there. You do know that you've had to hide your light, your sun, who you are to some degree because of power issues. There is power issues around this. So if it's around a healing practice that's alternative, it might be the sort of traditional medicine versus alternative medicine. If it's around self-esteem issues, you may have been around people who, whether it's in your family, workplace, friendships, love relationships, whatever it is, who were quite controlling and very egotistical and would only be committed when you did what they wanted you to do and were probably quite demanding, and you kind of withdrew within yourself. So you know that there's been something like that. You know that this is how you've had the aha moment, that making small changes and heading on your own pilgrimage towards healing is the thing you need to do. The Hermit has had the aha moment here. The Hermit has had the spiritual awareness that this is ultimately for you a spiritual journey, and that's part of the message of this card, that this is a spiritual pilgrimage. You don't have to get up and travel the world to do it. You can, of course, do that if you want, but you don't have to. This is an inner spiritual journey because you have dimmed your own sun, you've dimmed your own self-esteem, and you've seen it happen to others as well. You can see something, for those that respond to this, that you want to be in a healing job in some way, or a counselling job, or an education job, or even a political or social justice job, you can see how the system and the powers that be have actually got in the way of people being self-actualized. The Queen of Wands, the right way up, is very self-actualized. Reversed, it's dimmed, and so is the sun reverse dimmed. It's very hard to completely, though, dim the sun, even when it's reversed. So I think this is your life force, this is your chi, and you've worked out the spiritual pilgrimage is what will bring it out. So you've had an aha moment that something around, sort of powerful people or influential people or people who have that kind of role in your life have had too much of an impact on how you healed yourself and how you might help others. And you've worked out what your pilgrimage is. What is the first domino to fall? So you know the nature of this issue. So let's have a look and see what you don't know or what could be helpful to know. Okay. So there's a couple of things from this. One is for those of you who responded or related to the bit that I was talking about where there's powerful people and they don't really like the alternative pathways. There's more to this and more to what they might try and do than you at this point can see. So there's stuff that is hidden at this point from you, literally hidden from you. And in fact, your way out of it to some degree is hidden from you with a lot of obfuscation and weasel words, really, with Page of Swords reversed. So the Eight of Swords reversed says that you could escape some of this probably quicker than you think. You are going to take it as a long-term pilgrimage step by step, and it will ultimately work out for you. And that is a safe way of doing it. But in fact, there is sort of like a lot that's hidden around whatever the other pathway was, that you could liberate yourself from it a bit easier than you think. But there is a lot of pushback against anything new, and it will be told to you as something pragmatic. So again, if this was genuinely that you found a different alternative health remedy to heal something, then it's likely that the more traditional medicine would say, no, that's not pragmatic, you can't do that. And yet there would be stuff that they aren't talking about or aren't saying. It's science and medical stuff these days is as much driven, I think, by profit and sort of rigidity in thinking as it is by what was supposedly being the inquiring mind of science. So there is a kind of a hegemony that runs even deeper than maybe you're even seeing at the moment. But you have the capacity to break through that. And if this is around people who want to stop you from having self-esteem and want you to be always feeling you have to say sacrifice and dim that light and stop you from going on this journey, the reality is, again, you can escape that quicker than you think. It's a thinking thing. There's a spiritual essence that sent you on the journey, but there's a process of thought, of understanding the subtext of what was more rigid and why that is more rigid. That would help you, I believe. So let's then see what Spirit wants to say as advice for you. Because I don't think Spirit is saying just because there's more below the surface of all of this than you know, not to do what you're doing. I think Spirit is saying in many ways probably that is why it's wise that you take it step by step, because you're not going to know everything, not initially anyway. Okay, let's have a look at Spirit's advice. Okay, so I think what Spirit's saying here is, in the midst of all this sort of what almost looks like a debate on dogma or process or intellectual rigor or whatever it is that is sort of getting in the way of like this process that you're developing and the pilgrimage that you're on, you have the natural nurturing energy and it's in your heart and what you care about in your heart. Let go of a lot of that burden. I think it's really in combination saying, look, it doesn't even really matter. You will get different advice. You'll get pushback on this. Your ideas, your approach will not be accepted by some of the powers that be. But in some ways, it doesn't matter. That's kind of white noise. That's just a burden that would slow you down. Don't get caught in arguing with people. People who want to come with you on the journey, people who can see the life force and the healing will come with you. And one step at a time, you will heal together. And you are meant to nurture and heal the heart of others. But don't get caught up in the debate about technique and so forth. It's the one thing that could slow you down, I think is what Spirit's saying. You have had a true aha moment about the process of healing for yourself and for others, and back that because it's well founded. Okay, so let's have a look at what support you get. So we're going to start firstly with some divine animal support, and then also with a deck that has dragons with butterfly wings. So I thought, let's get some animal energy support for you, animal totems, and also mythical energy as well for you in this breakthrough. So you have Jackal, truth. Yeah, truth is on your side. Truth is on your side. And the Jackal can be a bit of a scary animal when needed to be. So, you know, you have the strength to do that and so forth. And I think also Jackal will help you deal with the jackals that are about obfuscation and dogma. And Dolphin, happiness. Yeah, because you're going to life force. You're going on a pilgrimage to the life force, to healing, to happiness. Remember, that's your journey. Remember, that's where you're going. Even if there is pushback sometimes, that's what your dominoes are heading towards, happiness. Okay, let's see what the dragon butterfly energy is around you. Magnificence. Well, that's lovely. So what you're doing is magnificent. It might feel step by step. It might feel like a long journey, but there is a magnificence to what you're bringing. And passion. And the more that you're passionate about it, the more that you care about this for yourself and for others, the more that it's going to rise and flow. Okay, let's look at what advice there is on the pathway. So a couple of cards from the Golden Path Oracle and one from the Lantern Oracle to sort of light your way in this breakthrough journey. Cooperation. So you will have people that you can connect with. The people who get it, who want to go on the pilgrimage with you, will cooperate and work with you. The only thing this may be saying is that maybe one of the reasons why some of this, you be aware of the pushback energy, is to find the right people to cooperate with. There might be those who overtly seem to be going, well, that's an interesting idea, but actually work against you. So find those who you really feel get it at a heart level with you, can see that the process of health and growth that's involved in what you're doing. And spring, bringing in the new life force, and again the chi, all that sort of thing. You are about healing, you know. Spring, and then I think the Empress is always like summer, so the warmth of what you do is important, and getting that sun to turn around, getting the sunshine on this. They say sunlight is the best disinfectant, so if there is sort of like anything that is a little bit less than honest about some of the opposition, then bringing the sun to it and finding the right people to cooperate with. And speaking of light, let's see what the Lantern Oracle has. Melting mask, allow your spirit self to shine through the many roles you fulfill. Yeah, it's about your spirit, your spiritual journey. And you'll find less and less that you have to wear a mask around this. They become like white noise, which is really nice. So let's see what you can manifest with this breakthrough. Inspiration. Yeah, you'll inspire others. Counselor, the child. There's definitely something in what you're going to do with this. Even if it's healing yourself at first, it's going to inspire and heal others as well. And opulence. And it could make you well off. So that's nice. You can make money out of this too, potentially. Or certainly have a very pleasurable life. You know, opulence can also just give you that sort of sense as well too. So to finish off, we want to look at some astrology energy around this and then get some crystal chakra affirmations for you. So firstly, we're just looking at astrology or sometimes numerology energy from the deck I'm using here around this breakthrough, pile 3. Trine. Square. Okay. Grand Cross. Oh, this is a lot about dealing with other people, I have to say. And other energies. And T-square, it's all around planets. Okay, so what I'm going to do for each of these is I'm going to actually deal out to see what planets we're talking about, because this is showing some will be easy, some will have a dynamic energy, some will be almost having a balancing energy, and some will be almost having a force operating on an opposition. So it's different sort of energy around this. It's why it was picking up the other people, I think, because your pathway here will heal yourself, but lots of other people too, and there will be lots of other opinions. So I just want to see what the the energies are for this. So I'm just going to deal out till I get planets to cover these. Jupiter, that's nice to have with the trine. Jupiter and Uranus. Okay, so the sort of beneficial, expansive energy of Jupiter with Uranus, the change energy. You will find going through the change of all of this, you know, sort of finding that sort of pathway, the sort of the one step at a time, the domino effect really does create change very easily. So whatever you're trying to do around this energy will happen easier and more inspired than you expect it to be. And there's a lot of protection around it. Let's see the square. Neptune. So your dreams and ideals are going to be activated by sorry, it takes a little while to get to a planet. Venus, okay, by love for yourself, self-esteem, love for others. There is a ideal of love that is being activated by this. So it connects to the emotions, it connects to the heart. Also with the Venus energy, with the Empress, you know, if any of this is around being a parent, there's an idealism. You know, you can bring ideals to parental sort of roles as well. Okay, the Grand Cross, we're going to need to find 4 planets. So this is sort of like opposite. We'll start with those. Well, I'll just use the 4. They're kind of in opposition or a square to each other, so we'll just operate across all of them. I think it's a bit complicated using this deck otherwise. Pluto. Saturn. Okay, all right. Sun. And Mars. All right. Okay, so there is within what you're doing, and this is why we've got that kind of energy around the sort of like what people believe and what is already structured and what is already believed and sort of seen as conservative is operating and trying to balance out with what is new and transformative. And this is part of your life path, to be in the middle of this contradiction and to be able to find a way, active way through the actions, the small steps, even if they're small, that shifts the blocks, allows the transformation and allows people to become who they are. Okay, so I'm just going to work out whether I'm going to have enough planets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We may not have enough planets for the T-square. I'm just thinking, like, I don't know in this deck if it goes beyond with Chiron and so forth, but we'll see. Let's see what the T-square energy could be. Okay, I'm going to use Black Moon Lilith as one. So that's sort of like deep emotional energy that's being drawn in. The moon, yeah. This is picking up the spiritual pilgrimage side of it. And Mercury. Communicating, okay. So part of the dynamic tension around all of this will be connecting Moon's energy, which is truly healing, truly sort of emotional, truly psychic, with that which is maybe a bit vampiric or sort of like the sort of shadow, and then being able to communicate what comes out of it. So there's something about this process that you're looking at for healing that deals with deep emotional wounds and communicates a way out of it. So that's complex, but this is because what you're doing is complex. So that's why we got those 4 aspects, and I think, or transits. No, sorry, aspects. So I think that is telling us that there is a lot about this that expands out. It might feel like it's one step at a time, but it's a lot that's expanding out. So given that, pile 3, let's give you some crystal chakra energy to finish up, to give some affirmations to deal with this long but very beneficial pilgrimage for yourself and for others around healing in some way. So the root chakra and the throat chakra. So yeah, this all finishes up with what you communicate to others. Root chakra with fire agate, protection and karma. I clear my karmic debts and I am divinely protected. And I think you are, because you're here for a purpose. You're here to heal yourself, but to heal others as well. Throat chakra, turquoise, purpose and clairvoyance. I utilize my psychic gift of clairvoyance. So pay attention to those sort of images and visions that you get, because that is a download for you to help you understand this pathway. And I align to my true life purpose. And yes, this is about your life purpose. As I said, being in the middle of a contradiction, shifting that which is outdated, bringing in more true energy, and healing deep emotional wounds. So no pressure on you, pole 3, but you definitely have the goods to do it. And I do hope that this breakthrough energy that you feel, you have this pathway now and you can see the way through. So I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pole 4, to your reading. So we have the first card from the Aha Oracle that may have been what drew you to the reading, plus 2 other Aha Oracle cards. We have Goddess and God energy, and we also have Dreams of Gaia to give me a sense about what this breakthrough is about. And for you, this is about, you've truly started to understand how gifted you are, how strong you are. You may well have done that through adversity. That often is the way that we realize what our gifts are, but you may also have just graduated from a particular sort of qualification, developed a skill or a craft. You may have created something and realized you have that gift. You might have, sung in front of somebody and they said you're the next Barbara Streisand or something like that. There is something in terms of understanding and accepting the gifts that you have. That's what this card is about. It's about sort of spiritually, or in very practical terms, accepting that you are special, that you do have something to offer, that you do have something unique, and that it isn't ego, it's just awareness of ability. And part of your strength with Andromache here is not only having that skill, but you've also got the discipline to focus. This card is all about bringing discipline to what we do. So if you have found that you have a natural skill, you have a natural sort of musical ear and you've just got a piano and you're learning to play the piano, you have the discipline to do that. So it's the marriage of the skill and the focus and the discipline to bring something into being. And there's a great deal of emotional depth and resonance and joy to be had from this skill and from the creation of yourself and your gifts and developing that skill. Like you're not competing really with other people. We'll get to this card, but you're not competing with other people. You're competing with yourself. It's about mastery. So you've realized some ability that you have and you've started to focus and seen how you could become a master at this. And of course, they talk about mastery comes after doing 10,000 hours of something, but there's also needing to be a true master. There also needs to be the core gift to start with. And I think you've had an aha moment, a breakthrough understanding that you have that and that you have a process that can bring you there. And it's very joyful, but it's a journey. You know that to get to the mastery will take time, focus and discipline, and that it probably then would take you to the next level and the next level. So you are joyful in the concept that you could really be something in whatever this skill is, and it has a huge creative fire energy. And it doesn't have to be, I've been talking about singing and so forth, it doesn't have to be that. It could be strategic, it could be health, it could be science. It's something, but there is a huge potential to self-actualize and lead others and draw others to you with it. Now, the interesting thing is the Achilles. We've got Achilles here, which in this card, in this deck, is about confidence. So you have the confidence. You kind of know. You realize there's something that you really can bring to the table, develop, and become a master at. And there's no doubt that you're right about that. And as I say, the strength, being prepared to battle and compete around showing that, so sort of someone, again, who's sort of like learning, to sing and then sort of like competes in sort of estate or music talent shows or whatever, you're able to go in there, you have the strength to do all of that, and the journey that you're on. And there's something unique about you, because this is all about what makes us separate and different and what we have boundaries around. But the interesting thing to me here, and I think what Spirit might want you to think about, is that Achilles had confidence but also had Achilles heel. So in his incredible body and incredible dexterity, his heel was a point of weakness that was eventually exploited. This card asks you to consider, when being unique, different, a master and so forth, and being that, because we are all unique and we are all different and we all have our boundaries, and it is important to have those, to also consider that we're not just that. So we're not just our body, we are connected to others in other ways. So we exist in a kind of separate area for ourselves, which has physical boundaries, but spiritually we're very connected. So I think that one of the things that Spirit might be saying here is that you know that you are very, very talented in something, and you have every potential to become a master, but don't use that to isolate yourself, because then some of the inspiration that you could bring to others and the joy that you could have out of it may be limited, may be sort of bottled up like this. So I do think that it's probably the challenge for everybody who is a protege, because I think that's sort of the energy I get of this. There is something, even if you're coming to something late in life, there is something of the protege about you that can be very isolating, and that in itself can be the Achilles heel. So I think for the journey that you're on, for the true creative inspiration to others, and for your true emotional joy, don't become too isolated. Okay, so let's see what the tarot has to say, and we're going to start firstly with what you know about this, what you already realize about this breakthrough. Okay, so you know that part of this was to almost make a decision that you were going to go forward with this, that you were going to put the focus and the discipline in. So you know that there's a decision around that. You know that there may be choices to make around who to learn from, who to study from, and so forth. If you're a painter, eventually you sort of study with the masters, for instance. So you know that there is in this journey towards mastery, there are decisions where you have to defer the decision to others, or you have to negotiate what that looks like for you. You're very clever. Some of you, this may be academic. It may be that, you've got a qualification and you've now been offered sort of a PhD, for instance, or something like that. There's, for some of you, it's very much that kind of intellectual energy and so forth, or you're brilliant with the law and you're going to sort of be a sort of top humanitarian barrister or something. Like there's that kind of energy around it. You're aware of that, and you're aware that sometimes the choice will be yours and sometimes it may not be, but that you can negotiate what you need to do to go through this pathway. You also know that it is a journey. You know that there will be times where you feel tired and you're wondering whether you can go on, but you know that you need to, that really whenever you feel that, like with the Nine of Wands, that you're near the finish line of one part of this journey, and to just keep on keeping on. So you know that you are on a journey that you're committed to. You also know that it's just near the beginning of it, and that the one thing that would get in the way of you really making it would be to make it more about ego and less about the outcome that you're trying to do. It's like you know that the best way to really serve this gift, and that is what it's like, serving the gift, is to go through the process of learning to be humble when it's necessary, to let other people who are masters further along the path give you the guidance and so forth, help you negotiate what you need to do, and to make it less about what's the ultimate outcome and less about ego and more about just the mastery of the skill. So you sort of know the pathway that you're on, and you know that you can't get every sort of glittering prize out of this instantly, and that some things that you will pursue may not be quite right for you, and you've got to kind of allow the universe to let that happen so that you get steered more and more to the journey of your true mastery. So you know those things, you know the pathway you're on. So let's see what you don't know. Well, for a start, you don't know how much of a master you're going to be. People who've come to this reading, if you've come to the right reading, saying prodigy is right. Like you are a child prodigy, you are a protege of people, you are all those sort of things. It's very, very powerful. some of the skill that you're doing you've had before, I would say, if you believe in past lives. Some of it is about bringing a balance of all the different elements of life in, like the magician will, and being able to manifest. You don't know your own power at the moment. You also don't know how clever you are. You really are clever. So there is definitely something here. So say a lot of this feels a bit academic, even though I was sort of thinking of like singing and artistry. There is a precision. Whatever you do, there is a precision to it. That you know, and you really do have the discipline that you need, like big time. In fact, if anything, this card talks about not getting to the point where it's all work and no play, that it is important sometimes to be able to step back and enjoy yourself. So this may be a bit of a message of don't get so obsessed with it that you leech the joy out of it. You are very, very skilled, more skilled than you think, and it is going to bring abundance, but it's sort of like not sort of, it's a journey. You've got to sort of go through that journey to get to the abundance. It's saying you need to think differently about this on some level, and not to battle your own sort of gifts in some way. It's like you want to do this, you want to become the master, but on another level, either you doubt it in yourself or you're worried about the sort of fallout with other people, particularly given that sort of sense of isolation. But you can have that connection with others. You can figure this out. Spirit is saying that it's almost as though you've had the aha moment that you have this skill and that you really have a destiny around it that is going to be one of the greats in whatever it is that you're doing. Honestly, that's what this is coming across like. But you do worry about, the conflict that could come out of it, and you do almost underestimate how much you could achieve at this point in time, which is great to be humble to start with and to learn from the greats, but there will be a point where you have to take up that particular name for yourself. So I think that's just something Spirit wants you to know, that there is a lot behind this. So let's see what Spirit's advice is for you. Three of Cups. That's come up as the advice for quite a few. Six of Swords. Two of Wands. So part of it is do enjoy it. Don't make it all just about the discipline. You should enjoy this talent, whatever it is. Like I remember seeing a movie once where a sort of wise person was saying to a young person who was sort of in a competitive academic world that, like true winners just enjoy the race. They're not thinking about winning. They're just enjoying the race. Effectively, that's sort of like not the exact or very eloquent way that it was said in the movie, but it was, the true winners aren't thinking about that. They're thinking about how much they enjoy what they do. So Spirit is saying, make sure you enjoy it, have the focus and discipline, but don't get to the point where it's so earnest, because that could make you feel less calm and less sure of your pathway. You will have many options, many choices about what you want to do, and you will be having your own creative vision and journey out of this. So enjoy it. Enjoy the fiery energy of it. Enjoy the emotional energy of it. Remember the 10 of Cups and the King of Fire. You are meant to love to do what you're doing. Yeah, and ultimately people do tend to love doing things that they're very good at, but I think you put such a control and such a set of expectations on you that you might lose sight of that sometimes. And Spirit's saying, like, back off. You're all over this. Don't worry about that. Enjoy it, and just use that enjoyment to be the fuel of your focus, not a sense of self-regulation. It's going to come out easier in the end. You're going to be successful either way, but one way you really enjoyed it, and another way you're kind of always sort of feeling kind of stressed about it. So I think Spirit just wants you to enjoy your skill. So let's see how we can help you with that. Let's start with some animal totems, and also from another deck, dragons with butterfly wings, because I thought let's get some animal totem energy to support you, and also some mythical animal energy to support you on your breakthrough tile. So we have goat, reliability. Okay, so this is the Queen of Swords. This is the focus, and there's nothing wrong with that. Goat will make sure that you turn up to your training sessions. You do the process that you need to do, that you are reliable. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't enjoy what you're doing, but that energy will certainly make sure that you have the focus on the journey that you need. And we have cat, intuition. So there's something deeply sort of psychic and intuitive about what you're doing. That doesn't surprise me with the magician there. Some of you, this is mastery in a spiritual level, I would say. For others, there is just that sense that there is downloads of information that like, which I'm sure is what happens with prodigies and proteges. I am sure. So I think cat sort of feline energy around you is helping with that. So let's also see what the dragon butterflies can offer you. Memory. Okay. I do think that many of you, if you believe in past lives, that you've brought these skills in from before, and this is helping you to remember. That's what will accelerate your path. If not, I think you have a very good memory. You will pick up things very well. You'll move on that paradigm that goes from unconscious incompetence through to unconscious competence. You'll get to that unconscious competence really well because you'll underneath have this sort of memory around what you've learned. And we have abundance. Yeah, you're going to be successful, bring in money, bring in success, all of those sorts of things. Okay, so let's have a look at what lights we can shine on the pathway for you. So we have 2 cards from the Golden Path Oracle and 1 from the Lantern Oracle. So we have Seasons of the Heart. Okay, so I think this is saying, yeah, don't lose the enjoyment in it. And that this is also with seasons, they come and go. So there will be times when you are more emotionally connected to what you're doing and probably times when you're more intellectually connected. And as long as you allow both as a flow, you should be fine. And good fortune. Yeah, you're definitely going to do well out of this because you are very, very talented. Whatever this is, you are exceptional. Okay, and the Lantern Oracle, key to intimacy. Intimate love is a core need to be met in relation to ourselves and those closest to us. The journey to intimacy often includes learning what love is not. I think this is connecting to the separation card. I think that part of the pathway for you will be to find the person to connect to and to be intimate with. And again, people who are this talented can find that difficult. But this is saying that you will be able to find that. As long as you don't get so separate that you almost are untouchable, you can bring that in. And that will also keep you in your heart and keep you in your passion, your inspirational sort of level as well too. Okay, so let's ask what you can manifest out of this breakthrough. Good fortune, good fortune, good fortune. Okay, like, yep, you guys deserve it though. Whoever's coming to this thing, you're very, very good at what you do. And if anybody gets jealous about it, just push that aside. You really are good at what you do. And you are meant to be fortunate with it, definitely. And abundance. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Yes, you are definitely meant to do very, very well, and good on you. It's really good to see people who are very talented and very dedicated do well. So I think that's lovely. Spirit is really saying that's the case. It's just don't lose the intimacy in the midst of all of this. You could become the star of the world but feel alone, and that does happen with people sometimes who are incredibly talented. So that's the balance. Remember the heart. Remember the joy. Okay, so let's see what astrological and possibly numerological energy that is also around your breakthrough, pile 4. Trine, we'll have a look at what planets are associated with that, but that's showing some ease. Aries, lunar eclipse, okay, and waning gibbous moon. Okay, so there's a sort of sense with the lunar eclipse and waning gibbous of letting go of that which isn't serving you and sort of moving into new cycles. So some of that might be getting that sort of sense of what does this mean in terms of relationship, and also what is the right pathway to develop your skills and so forth. Very interesting that the lunar eclipse came up if you were listening to this when it was roughly when it was filmed and published, because as I said there in the introduction, there just was a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So that might tilt to Scorpio. Some of you may have Scorpio strongly in your chart, or Scorpio sort of concept of sort of like getting to the depths and really connecting on that sort of level and being prepared to look in the shadow is probably very helpful for you, and the capacity to let go when things aren't working and move on and evolve. Great deal of ambition around what you do, as I think there should be, and kind of being first in your field, because Aries is the first sign, so there is definitely that sense of first among equals in a way. So I'm going to now deal out till I see what the 2 planets are in trine. So trine is an aspect normally of ease, unless we get planets that sort of like work a little bit difficultly together. But it's sort of something that will probably be telling us something that's going to be easier than you expect in this journey. So just have to deal out till I get planets. Pluto. Wow, major transformation. Okay. There's also why I'm feeling this scorpionic energy around you, I think. Pluto and Jupiter. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's kind of, to me, a bit of the mark of genius, to be honest, because there's the really deep transformation, the really sort of like kind of getting to the core of things, and Jupiter, the expansion and the like, it's certainly picking up the good fortune. Major change, growth in your life, the ways that you transform and evolve will bring in benefic energy for you. The only thing I think that you have to be careful of with Jupiter and Pluto is that if Pluto was too sort of strong in this, it could dim some of the joy by just the amount of transformation, the obsession. So you do have to watch out that you don't get obsessed. This is, that keeps you separate, that makes it all about the Queen of Swords rather than the Queen of Cups. You do need to make sure that Pluto doesn't overtake Jupiter. Jupiter, equally, if you were too sort of like relying on luck, you might not do as much transformation as you need to do. But I don't think you aren't giving off the energy of somebody who would have that issue. It's much more about just make sure you don't become obsessed so that you can still enjoy this. So to finish off, we're just going to get a couple of crystal chakra cards with some affirmations for you. Sacral chakra around creativity, and the throat chakra around what you communicate. Okay, so the sacral chakra with orange calcite is about connection and discovery. I'm on the path to self-discovery. Yes, this discovery of your skills, your mastery, your gifts, and I feel connected to all things. So yes, don't disconnect from others because you're special, because everybody in a way is special. You're just in your thing. You will be finding your thing, and this is part of your breakthrough where you are ultra special, but it doesn't mean that you have to be disconnected from others or from intimacy in the heart. Then the throat chakra with chrysocolla is about self-awareness and comfort. I'm comfortable with my true self. So yeah, be comfortable with who you are and your gifts. And I am highly aware of what I say and do. So yes, part of dealing with being that sort of person and having joy in it and not being separate is not using it to say, oh, I'm better than everybody else. As I say, enjoy the experience, enjoy the race, not the competition with the others. That way you're not going to get the sort of blowback from this, and people are likely to be inspired by and enjoy what you do rather than get in competition with it. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 4. I think you've got a really interesting life path ahead of you, and many of you I think will hear about and know about, to be frank, if we don't already. But beyond that, I hope that you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. And beyond all of that, again, I hope to see you in future readings.